Proteins are macromolecules that are polymers, and the monomers of proteins are amino acids. There are 20 different types of amino acids, but they all have kind of a similar basic structure to them. And so when multiple amino acids are bonded together, it forms the polymer of a protein. Now, a peptide is the name given to a short chain of amino acids. So to be an actual protein, there's a higher level structure to it. So there are such things as peptides, which are made up of the monomers amino acids, but it's not a full protein. If there are a longer chain of amino acids, so a lot of amino acids stuck together, it's called a polypeptide. And so a protein is just a polypeptide, so a long chain of amino acids that are bonded together, and then they fold into a 3D shape that gives them a function. So we can see up here, this is a chain of amino acids, and then the part of the chemical nature of the different amino acids that they interact with each other, and some of them are attracted to each other, some are repelled by each other. And so this chain of amino acids starts bending into different shapes. And so it can bend into spirals or pleated sheets, and then they further interact with each other to give us this three-dimensional structure. And it's the 3D structure of a protein that gives it its function. If that 3D structure changes, that protein's no longer going to work. So think about a protein as being like a key that you would use to unlock a door. If you break the key or melt the key down, it's not going to work in the lock anymore. And so that's how the proteins work, and that if you change the 3D shape of it, it can't perform its function anymore. And this is one main reason why our body is trying to maintain homeostasis. Because if you have homeostasis in your body, your proteins are healthy and doing what they should be doing, and that can lead to basically your body working the way it should. Now, if homeostasis is not maintained, so if your body gets too hot, or your body fluids get too acidic or too salty, then those proteins can do something called denature. And so proteins aren't alive, so you can't really kill a protein, but denature just means that that 3D shape is changed. And sometimes that 3D shape is changed permanently, other times it might be able to be reversed. So some kind of common examples of proteins being denatured. Think about a raw chicken egg when you add it to a hot frying pan. The structure of the egg changes because of the heat. And that's because eggs are made up of a lot of protein. And when that protein hits the heat, that heat denatures the proteins in the eggs, and it changes the structure of that. And that's how we cook things. We can also kind of cook things with acid. So if you've ever had ceviche is a dish in which you usually take shrimp or fish and you soak it in an acid like lemon juice or lime juice. And that acid denatures the proteins and in a way cooks the shrimp or the fish, and then you can eat it. So homeostasis is trying to keep your proteins doing what they're supposed to be doing. If homeostasis is not maintained, your proteins can become denatured, which means that the chemical reactions in your body might start to shut down. So your metabolism might shut down, you're not able to process nutrients, and if that happens to too many proteins or for too long, it can lead to illnesses and, in really severe cases, death. So basically, if you lose homeostasis, you are going to die unless you can get back into homeostasis. Proteins play a lot of different functions in the body. So one really key important one are they act as enzymes. So an enzyme is something that speeds up a chemical reaction. There are other things that are enzymes, but proteins can be enzymes. And the speeding up the chemical reactions is really important because if we don't have enzymes, the chemical reactions in our body don't occur fast enough for them to support life. So, for example, for us to extract energy from our food and store it as ATP, we have to have enzymes to help speed up that process. Without those enzymes, we can't make ATP fast enough for things like our heart to keep beating. Proteins can also be structural. So keratin is a protein that makes up your hair, your fingernails, and it also helps to give your skin a little bit more strength to it. Actin and myosin are both proteins that are found in your muscles, and it's the action of actin and myosin sliding across each other that allows your muscles to contract. Proteins can also be chemical messengers in the body. So some hormones are proteins, others are steroids, which we talked about in the other video on lipids, but some of them are proteins. Also, a lot of neurotransmitters are proteins as well. And so neurotransmitters help the structures in your nervous system communicate with each other. And then hormones can travel in the blood to help one part of your body communicate with another part. And then last but not least, proteins can be an energy source. Typically the body is going to break down carbohydrates and lipids before it starts breaking down proteins because your body doesn't really have a good way of storing proteins. Instead, those proteins go into making things like muscle. So if you're breaking down protein to extract the energy from it, oftentimes it means you're breaking down muscle. And typically that is a sign of starvation. So people that have reached a point where they've gone through all of their stored carbohydrates and lipids, when they start breaking down proteins for energy, it means that they're in starvation mode and they're starting to break down skeletal muscle or cardiac muscle or smooth muscle, which can lead to major illness and death.